it's Conor McGregor going into the world of Mayweather, right? So for me, I can't really tell you that there's a strategy out there necessarily that's going to make all that world of a difference. Now, I think Conor McGregor is the better fighter. If I had to compare the two, of course, he's the better fighter. Why? He's an MMA fighter. In his sport, there's less rules. You can kick, you can punch, you can knee, you can grapple on the floor, you can strangle the man, you can arm lock him. For sure, if this was just a fight, if there was no rules, Mayweather is a far more complete fighter, far better fighter. But now he's going into um, Mayweather's world. Now, when he's going into Mayweather's world, he has to play by Mayweather's rules, obviously, and they're gonna be taking away 50% of what he does, at least. Okay, let's not debate on the number. Okay, the number, I'm just throwing it out there. They're taking out a lot of what he does. They're taking a lot of his arsenal out. So now he's left with just his punching. Now, in boxing, you're not allowed to clinch, but clinching happens. And McGregor is for sure, without a doubt, a better clincher than Mayweather. And the reason why I'll tell you that is because he's a wrestler. He's wrestled, he's done Muay Thai, he's done wrestling, he's done Jiu-Jitsu. He has that grinding gear that Mayweather doesn't have, that doesn't need to develop so much in his sport. So if I was Conor McGregor's coach, I would tell him to tie up Mayweather as much as possible, pull on his head, step on his toes, bump knee to knee, get physical, push him up against the rope with your forearms, tie him up as much as you can, be physical with him. Mayweather is a lot smaller than Conor McGregor. He's going to be a lot smaller, and when Mayweather comes forward, if you try to punch him, he's just going to slip, slide, defend, counter. And of course, you're going to have to punch him. It's a boxing match, absolutely. But I would spend a lot of my time dirty boxing Mayweather, grabbing the back of his head, throwing uppercuts, doing things that are borderline illegal. They're not illegal. The referee's going to have to come in and break you up. The referee's going to have to come in and save Mayweather. And I'm sure that the referee they chose, I don't know which referee they chose, but I'm sure Mayweather's team chose a referee who's going to be no nonsense and so strict on that. Don't forget, Mayweather is the guy who's bankrolling this fight. I mean, the numbers are going to be super high because Mayweather's built a market out there and he controls everybody. I don't know if he's officially the promoter, but Mayweather, make no doubt about it, he knows everybody in the boxing world. And I don't want to say they all work for him, but he's the guy who brings in the money. So the referee, I'm sure, is going to be getting paid a ridiculous amount. And the reason why he's going to be getting paid a ridiculous amount is because he's going to do a job that was given to him by Mayweather. And Mayweather is going to want no nonsense in the octagon. But still, if you go and try and punch somebody that's been punched his entire life and has been incredibly successful, you might, if the luck of the draw, you might always win. But I would take it a different approach. I would rough Mayweather up, rough him up physically, grab him, throw him, drop him on the floor, do borderline illegal stuff, rough him up, get him thinking, what is this? I don't know how to grapple with this guy. I don't know what an overhook is. I don't know what an underhook is. I don't know what this type of clinching is. And he's going to get tired. He would get tired from clinching. If you haven't done a lot of clinching in your life, it's extremely exhausting. If you look at Randy Couture, for instance, he was not a great boxer, but he would tie guys up so much. He's the one who kind of made dirty boxing popular. He would tie people up so much, and of course he was a Greco-Roman expert. So clinching for him is just like a walk in the park, right? He can clinch all day long. And after a certain period of clinching, you build up that lactic acid. Your muscles get a little bit, they have less pop. They're less explosive, and all of a sudden you're trying to punch, but it doesn't feel right. Do 100 push-ups, then go hit the heavy bag. You're gonna see your muscles are not feeling right. They're tight and they're slower. They're less explosive. So without a doubt, make no doubt about it, Mayweather in all his fights, save maybe one or two, had the speed advantage. I mean, he's incredibly fast, and he's fought consistently taller people, Mayweather. And he still fights from the outside. Typically, a shorter fighter has to get on the inside of a taller fighter, and you got to kind of cut the ring off and get close and attack. But Mayweather's an exception. Mayweather fights taller fighters. Like, for instance, he fought De La Hoya, who was just a little bit, I think, about the same size as McGregor, maybe a little bit different, maybe a little bit shorter, a little bit taller. And he was beating De La Hoya from the outside quite comfortably, even though he had the inferior reach to De La Hoya. But he was quick enough to go in and out. He was just quick enough. So the speed advantage is going to be Mayweather's. Definitely. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. The distance is going to be different, right? They're going to be closer together, which is also very bad for McGregor because McGregor is not going to have the pace of an MMA fight. Now, I would say Mayweather consistently throughout his career throws over 100 punches around, very close to it. He's a very busy guy in the ring. Maybe not in the first few rounds. In the first few rounds, he paces himself. He's a very smart guy. He wins the later rounds. He will bank 7 rounds in. If you give Mayweather anybody in the world today, he will make sure he banks 7 rounds. He knows exactly how to do it. He's very well calculated, and we saw him do it with Pacquiao. He banked in I would say he banked in 8 rounds at least eight, and that was Pac-Man. And Pac-Man is incredibly good at crossing the distance. So what would I do? You're asking me if McGregor was my student and I was coaching him. I would tell him every time you can rough him up, grab the back of his neck, trip him, shove him into the ropes, shove him through the ropes, whatever. Rough this guy up, make him forget about boxing. And of course, look to land the left. We're going to talk about McGregor's left, I'm sure, throughout this video. And of course, McGregor's chance to win is going to be the left hand. All right, this one's from Peter DeGraff. Peter DeGraff asks, what MMA skills can Conor implement in a boxing fight? Can you surprise Mayweather in some way? There's only one skill that I think he could do that would probably not get him disqualified. Is not necessarily foot sweeps, but you kind of bump knees with the fighter. So you kind of like you kind of hook your foot to his foot and you bump your knee into his knee. And that kind of, as you're punching him, you kind of trip him with your leg. But the referee won't know if it was really a trip or not. It's kind of like, it's very camouflage. It's not a foot sweep where you're kind of sweeping the foot out from underneath. You're kind of just, stepping in, kind of stepping on his foot just a little bit, and your knees collide as you're punching. And that'll throw a little guy on the ground. And I think that's something Conor could do because don't forget, he's a lefty and Mayweather's a southpaw. So their lead legs are very close. And you could trip a guy with your lead leg quite a bit. You could do it quite a lot. And if Mayweather gets tripped up as he's trying to collect his balance, if that left hand comes crashing down, it could be a disaster for Mayweather. Now, does a boxing referee know what a trip looks like? I don't think he does. Not a foot sweep, guys. Don't mistake. Don't go out there and say Coach Zahabi said Mayweather's gonna get caught up with some foot sweeps. McGregor, if he does a foot sweep, will lose a point. He'll get disqualified. He'll get in a lot of trouble. I'm not talking about foot sweeping. It's called a knee bump. Okay, you kind of trap his foot with your foot and you collide knees together. You bump his knee with your knee. That'll buckle an inexperienced wrestler, a boxer who's never wrestled a day in his life. That will buckle his legs. That will trip him up, especially if you're jabbing him at the same time, especially if you're kind of pushing him with your hands, you're shoving him at the same time. He will lose his balance. He will trip. His feet will come off the ground. He'll be catching his balance, and that will be a perfect time to drop the left and potentially hurt Mayweather seriously or knock him out. So will McGregor do that? Time will tell, I think time will tell. But I'll definitely tell you one thing. A boxing referee won't know that technique. He won't know what it is. He won't know if it was done intentional. He won't know if Mayweather just slipped and tripped on his own feet. He wouldn't know. He wouldn't know if it was just accidental. And I would do it. If I was fighting Mayweather, I would do it just to torture him, just a little bit.